Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming here and thinking that this presentation is going to be very technical, but I'm going to let you down. It's not going to be technical, and it's going to be about the process of MVP. And as you know, MVP stands for a lot of things, but I will go through each one of them, and I'm going to give you a brief introduction about my life and how MVP rounds around my life. So let's start. Great. So here's the content, brief explanation of MVP in terms of product development and the role of open source projects in product development. And we will go through each processes, product ideation, product design, product development, and considerations of using open source projects. And there will be a Q&A at the end. And the reason and the purpose of this presentation is because just having a product idea and building it with the help of MVP. That's the explanation for now. And then, so you might think which one MVP, which MVP I'm going to talk about. So as you know, MVP stands for a lot of things. I told you already, model view presenter. If you are iOS developer or Android developer, you might be using that architecture. And most valuable player and most valuable professional, minimum viable presentation and minimum viable product, most valuable person. So my life is all about MVPs because I'm a product manager at IT companies. So, and at the same time, this presentation is all about, it is MVP itself. So this presentation is minimum viable presentation because I only spent 35 minutes, around 35 minutes to make this presentation. As you can see, and you can judge me that this presentation is not that flashy or beautiful, but it gives you something, and I hope it will give you something. And about me, my name is Kevin, and I always want to be most valuable player when I'm dating. And in my company, I kind of want to be most valuable professional. And I always work on this one, minimum viable presentations in the Scrum meetings. And then I always talk about MVPs, like minimum viable product. And also I'm going to talk about minimum viable product and how to build MVPs in this presentation. And then in my life, I also want to be most valuable person. And thank you. So minimum viable product. Why do we need minimum viable product? So before 1 month ago, I told Florian that I'm going to make a presentation in iOS Meetup, and I actually had like 1 month to prepare my ideas and my presentation, and I could have done it perfectly, but I have chosen only 3 hours to do the presentation to make it. And how could I do it? So I had a lot of ideas, and I actually came up with a title for the presentation using ChatGPT. And then I just only had the title for that. And I just kind of used, okay, I'm going to show you how I did it. So yeah, this is how excuse me. So I said, I already told you that this presentation is all about MVP. This is minimum viable presentation. So how I prioritize my ideas and how I came up with the presentation and what I'm going to give you. So jobs to be done in this presentation, I kind of prioritize my ideas and make the presentation clear, and then write solid contents that everyone can understand. I hope you will understand something, and then I hope I can make it comprehensive. I'm sorry. And then the product idea that I'm going to give you is called Journalic. I will go through it one by one, and then I also created some product requirements for this product, and then I will go through product design and product development, respectively. So this is that requirements were about the presentation materials, and we can use this technique for any kind of product that we are going to build. Why do we, in the first place, why do we need products, and how we build it? For example, as you can see on this chair, there are two chairs. If I wanted to make this presentation very perfectly, I could not do it because I did not have time, because I was lazy and I only have chosen today to make it. So that's why I minimum viable presentation. And then actually minimum viable product is the viable product that is a product with enough features to attract early adopter customers and validate a product idea early in the product development cycle. And in the companies, I think the managers, your managers or yourself use this terminology very often. And okay, we will talk about the role of open source projects in building projects. So open source, in terms of like iOS programming, or overall like product building, the role of it, the perspectives comes in 3 ways or 4 ways, and it's just most combinations. So if you use like open source projects in your product, there are like you will consider like cost reduction and speeding up the development, and flexibility and collaboration and maintenance. And I will go through each one of the process in the product development, and I will show you how I'm going to use ChatGPT and Figma and GitHub open source projects, and also a website called like Capsoft for stealing some code snippets that I can use for the project. And products, we always, when we are coming up and when we're building the product itself, first thing we have to do is to develop the requirements and what we are going to build, and what kind of features that we are going to add it to the product in the first place. So before we coming up with the feature of a list of products, asking these questions help us to decide how to collect our ideas. So think of a product that you want to use just initially for yourself, and then the first question that you ask would be what the app does, right? And then what specific problem it solves, and is it really useful? So just my personal view here, that we are not going to talk about the commercial product here, because the product that I'm going to show you to build is just about myself. So I'm going to show you the product that we are going to, like, imaginary product here called Journalic. This is one of my product lists that I always want to build, but I don't have time to build it. And the product is called Journalic. And then, as I already mentioned, that when we are building an MVP, we have to minimize the features, and then we have to focus on the main features, on foundational features that we are going to build. And then the minimum product feature list is this one. So Journalic is an app that uses your speech and turns them into text and then records it as your diary, and that's why it's called like journal. And I made it like kind of journalic. The app is called journalic. And then the first foundational feature is like speech to text note taking functionality, and then is an iOS application, and it records the days. Once the day is over, user cannot record the day or edit the day or the diary itself. Then minimum pages that the application will have 2 pages. Not 2 pages, but like 2 foundational tabs. First one is the home screen. Home screen should show today, and then table of already recorded diaries or days, and then, for example, like August 21, August 20, and so on, and then save the data locally. So they're so long that our application is like minimum viable product. We are not considering any kind of like AWS or like clouds databases. So this is the first ideation process, and we have the idea right now, and we may not know how to came up with the more broad PRD, product requirements document. And I always use, excuse me, I always use like ChatGPT for that. I will. So we are in the product ideation process, right? We will go to ChatGPT and then type. I'm going to build a product. It is an app. It is an iOS app. I'm going to give you MVP ideas, and you give me, not you give me, you give me the PRD for that. And I copy the requirements here. Sorry about that. Using ChatGPT or any kind of AI tool for designing your MVP helps you a lot in terms of designing or possibly designing your architecture or system design for the for your programming. So I might ask, for example, design the UX. So onboarding screen, we might not need the onboarding screen, home screen, recording screen, and past diary view screen. So these three major views are our MVP. And what I want, and actually, I did not give you why am I building this journaling application. I consider myself a very busy person, but I also like to keep my journal. I always keep my journal on the application called Notion. But typing what's going on in my life, what's going on in my day, will take some time. And basically, I don't have that time. But when I'm walking or when I'm going somewhere, like I want to talk to myself. So I came up with this idea that like if there is like speech to text functionality application that takes my ideas and like makes them turns them into a diary, that would be great. So that's why I'm going to build this application and particularly this MVP initially, so that I can build it first and I can add more features along the way. By the way, this application only works for my own needs, and I did not get into product market fit research. So we have talked about the product ideation and how to write the requirements right now using ChatGPT, and then we are going to go through like product design. And we have seen here, as we have seen here, I'm using like OpenAI, like ChatGPT for product ideation and writing the product requirements. And then I'm going to use Figma community to still to copy and paste some wireframes or mockups for my design, product design. And I'm going to use open source iOS apps collection for using some components to add my project to my project. And I'm also going to show you how I use pre-made projects from catself.com. So suppose that we have already cleaned up the product requirements, and then we will go to Figma community and we will type. So it's basically the product is kind of a task manager or journal application. When I researched about that, there were a lot of designs, but not now. Anyways, the example that I wanted to show was this one exactly. So these are the minimum design that I was going to show you. So as we have seen in the requirements, like speech to text note taking functionality, recording days. Once the day is over, we cannot record the day. And our design only has two screens. First, as a user, you will come to this like home screen, and you will not need any authentication to come into this because all your data will be saved in your local device. And once you click on this like banner or logo, you will go to this screen and you will start the main functionality. Main functionality is to use your voice and turn them into text. And I will be saying like I'm giving very ambiguous presentation in iOS Meetup right now, and the application hypothetically will be recording my voice and then turning them into text. And then we might see the days that I have collected, my notes, and that's the minimum design that we're going to use for our development. And suppose that we have done the product design. And then we have to make sure that product requirements are all set before we go into design. Because this is MVP. In the MVP process, we should avoid adding so many unnecessary components to the product design document. Because once the designer adds new ideas to the MVP design, the product development is always pending, and it will never be finished. And then we are using already existing UI kit and wireframes and mockups from Figma community. And then, yes, suppose that we have done the design. And after that, once the design is done, we can go through product development, which is going to be like iOS project. And when I was an iOS developer or Android developer, I always used to have the pre-made startup kit for my iOS projects, which has the model view model architecture, and then the components that I can use from the GitHub projects. And that way you can sustain your project, and then you can always maintain it perfectly. And then we have, while we are researching for the open source project, we have to make sure that the open source project fit our product requirements. In this case, I will go to cavsoft.dev application, and once we are using these projects for our iOS projects, we can research it, which component we are going to use for our project. And in this case, I think it will take too long, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to use. And this is actually task planner that I have downloaded from cavsoft.dev. And I'm going to show you how the application looks like. What I can do is that by looking at the design here and the open source project that I have downloaded from the website, this design pretty much fits to this project. How I can do it is I can go through each one of the files in this application, and then I can copy paste, and then by this already written requirements, the ChatGPT already remembers these requirements. If I give specific set of prompts, it will work, and then it will give me the result. Unfortunately, I cannot show you how I will do that, but I'm sure that it's possible. And we can assume that after R&D and using AI, specifically ChatGPT, we can modify the code, and then we are almost there. And examples, I have shown you I also have to show you the GitHub awesome projects. Not awesome projects, but open source iOS apps. So we only talked about the journaling application requirements, but once you have different requirements for your MVP, you can search for different cases of the components that you can use in your projects, and you can basically find anything not maybe not anything, but like most of the components for free in this application, in this set of open source projects. And most of them, to my case, most of them are updated by now, and you are almost there. And if you are too busy, and suppose that you are a product manager and you are forced to come up with a product idea and then accelerate your development, you can always go to themeforest.net, and then you can buy the components or the design. With the design, you can buy the design and the source code for cheap prices. And it's not open source though, but it solves your MVP problem. And you can build your MVP very fast by just like buying it and modifying the code or modifying the design in short period of time. And then, so considerations of using open source projects and libraries in your product. So first things like first thing in this consideration would be legalization. So if you copy somebody's code, like nobody cares about it, because actually we copy from ChatGPT, we copy from our friends, we copy from everywhere, and it is basically a normal thing to do. But if you copy somebody's licensed product design, it's a problem. I have been there, and I wouldn't recommend that to anybody else. That's why I always copy the design and then change the colors and maybe change the name of the product, and I call it mine. And licensing is also an issue when you are importing a specific library and then using it in your project. You always have to include some information corner in your app that you are using open source project in your application specifically. So, for example, this application was this open source code is for everyone to use. But what if I'm going to use some library from here? Some library from here, like I have to make sure that I am adding the specific library, and then I have to show that I am using that library in my project. And that's how you can avoid like licensing issues in your application. And that's pretty much it about my MVP. And I hope that my minimum viable presentation was valuable for you. And if you have questions, I am ready to answer. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any question? So can we see the final app? Is there a final app?
There's no final app. That I'm a PM.
Okay.
I don't finish the final app, but I can manage the final app. And as I told you, like I just spent 35 minutes to make this presentation. But basically, I know how to make the final app after maybe 2 years. After 2 years, like you.
So you mean like from now in 2 years you can make it, or after being in this business for 2 years you could make it? Like next month you could show us the finished MVP. If you want.
Next month I can show you the finished MVP. Yes. Actually, one of my friend over there is asking for the design of this application, and I'm always promising that I'm going to finish this specific design for 2 months, but I'm still promising that, unfortunately.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. It was lovely, and I kind of wanted to touch upon something similar to what you said.
Yes.
I was going to ask, like, do you have anything along the lines of time boxing or any guidelines of how much time you would want to give towards your project?
Yes. Time boxing, you mean the prioritization, you know? You mean
So like for example, like for an app like this, like you have like rules like, oh, like we want it to start in 2 weeks, and so maybe we should get the minimum stuff done in like a very plot in. Like you have something like that to make sure that things don't go over time. Right?
Yes, you always have to set the deadlines for every process. For example, in so many companies, like design should be done like as soon as possible, so that the development team can work on it and then test it. So for this kind of like minimum applications, we give to designers like 1 week to design with like A/B testing, and then like the development team like could start like one sprint, like 2 weeks of sprint to build it, and 1 week of testing. So it's going to be like 1 month and a half or something. So there is always like time boxes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Yeah, I have a question because I do like this kind of MVP application a lot,
Yes.
and then I usually skip the design part. And yeah, I look for the open sources, and then which one looks better and
Yes.
closer to the what I want.
Yes.
And I just copy paste and then like change things, and then just finish it.
Yes.
So what do you think about this way, how it works as a PM? Like if I skip the design part step.
We actually cannot skip the design part.
Yeah.
Because like as a PM, you have to show how the product looks like, right? So what it solves and how it works. So before that, like if there's no design, you'll be talking to an air. So like nobody believes it, and you have to make a presentation or like just a simple wireframe or a mock-up that shows what the product does, and then you can prove it. But without the
There's
design,
no one to show. It's just like developing everything by myself, like idea, and then like there is design, but I don't really draw it. It's like a design in my mind that like just like get an idea from the open sources, and then like it's still design, I guess. But yeah, I don't really like draw as you said. Does it still work?
uh, I'm very like black and white person. My answer would be like no, it would not work. It's like backend engineers. Backend engineers always structure something and they do the system design, but we don't know what they're doing. But they're doing something. But without any design, nobody believes that they're working. So we always require design.
Okay, and then the second question.
Yes.
So like if I develop the products in this way and I use like a lot of open sources,
Yes.
and then in the end, if this product goes well, what should I do to make the open sources legal?
If you're using open source by itself, by its name, like it's open source, but I have seen a lot of dating applications while I was researching about dating applications. They always show that they're using open sources. The list of open source projects that they copied from, not that they just like used from GitHub, they always show that. So if you don't show I think Apple itself, because I was building iOS applications, Apple itself will give you some kind of disclaimer that you are like violating open source community rules. And also, it's a must that you have to include any information that you're using open source.
Thank you so much for the answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's usually in the settings, right? You have in the settings, then you have licenses, and you see all the like read B5 of all the licenses.
Yes.
Thanks for your presentation. I was kind of so sad. I'm a really big fan of CapSoft, and like my CP source kind of reveals. Kind of really sad right now. And I'm also working on a little side project along with myself, but also I'm suffering with the design problem. So I'm not a designer. I'm also a developer, and design part is kind of like a hard thing, but most important thing maybe the side project. And so I'm also considering about how about just outsource the design part to the another designer. So what do you think of maybe outsourcing the design part, making an MVP?
If you are the actual owner of your MVP, you can outsource the design, but you have to write the clear requirements for the designer. If you're thinking about the timing, because like I have came across with the problem, and I faced so many problems with the designers that they add so many things, like they imagine things, right? They just like add so many components, and then you get the final result of the design, and then you might think like, this is not what I wanted. This is not MVP. This is whole new application. And then in that case, if you want to outsource the design, you have to draw something or like wireframe something and give it to the designer so that they will design clearly like what you want.
Can you press the
Yes, sorry about that.
As a PM, so like if you want to outsource, you need actually kind of like a little wireframe apps so that designer can understand how to design, not like a bunch of design.
Yes, exactly.
So what do you think about the cost at the time? Did you have experience at outsource with the MVP?
Yes, I have a lot of experience with the, yes.
What's your experience about the cost and time compared to the both the Figma community versus like outsource the whole design part of the designers?
Actually, Figma community outsourcing, no, excuse me, like I use Figma community for just designing my MVP. And then it's not finished product yet, right? It's not finished product design yet. So I use Figma community and like wireframes to collect my ideas and design like initially. And then I give it to I just give it to the outsourcing designer. And then they just finalize the design. That's how it works. And I can give like specific time frame for them to work on, like most of the time, like 1 week to work on, and they just like finish the product design. Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
First of all, thank you. A nice presentation. And
Thank you.
I'm curious. This journal, popular this journal, right?
Yes.
And the journal is the test, end user test. This is going to end user test. It's open source and they feedback to developers and they to figure it out.
As far as I understood your question,
This is for limited end user test, right? During the end user test, no end user test. So it's among the developers, they figure it out, each other communicate.
yes.
This open source for this generally for the developers. How to figure out what should we do? Because there should be end users test after that what there is something to do the feedback to developers and to figure it out.
Yes.
The Java is for developer, right?
No. Journaling is for anyone that wants to use their voice for writing their diaries, like journals.
Those who write the diaries.
Yes.
Those who is end users for
Yes.
developers and you got the project.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Just like that.
Thank you.
Any other question? Maybe one last that I've got is touching the first question actually. What do you think of parallelizing tasks? For example, you say, oh, the designer should work 1 week on the design.
Yes.
If you take this idea, it's like for 1 week, the developer, they are just waiting. So where as a PM, where do you see areas where actually teams can work in parallel? Like maybe we just work 1 day, maybe feature by feature. Do you need to finish the whole design to give it to the developers, or how do you see areas where you can actually improve the time of the project?
For example, if the sure. For example, in here, right? I get that problem a lot in my day-to-day life as a PM. So this is very minimum viable product, right? And this screens like has 3 to 4 requirements for the developer to work on. And as soon as the designer finishes this like home screen, but other screens are not finished yet, right? So designer is going to finish it by Friday, but developer is asking for the job. And then I can give, yeah, to the developer and say that like, please work on the home screen right now. You can finish the UI, or you can consider the data presentation layers in the iOS or Android application, and they can work on it. At least this home screen will take like 2 days, and by that time they are working on it. While they're working on it, the design will be finished by Friday. So they always work in parallel, but most of the time, like design will be finished and then development will start after the design finished kind of scenario never works, because I'm talking about perfect scenario, and then I always come across with the worst case scenario in the job field.
Any last question? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.